is Beth Skinner. I'm the director of the National Reentry Resource Center. And thank you very much for joining us on the final day of the conference. It has been a great week. I hope everyone took advantage of the informative workshops, the plenaries, the opportunity to network with your peers, interact with Justice-centered staff and federal partners in research and the experts in the field. Before we start this morning's plenaries, I want to share with you some information about the National Reentry Resource Center. It's a project of the CSG Justice Center and is administered by the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance. Also, I just want to forward your attention to the back. In the hallway, we have a table out there. The Justice Center has a table that has all of our publications, thumb drives, as well as you can sign up for a newsletter. So please, when you have time this morning or this afternoon, please stop by our resource table and talk to our staff there and sign up for a newsletter. So briefly, I want to talk about some of the work that we're doing at the National Reentry Resource Center. Some of the things we're doing is that we're advancing the knowledge base of the reentry field. We work with top researchers and practitioners to develop consensus-based resources and tools that assist jurisdictions in implementing evidence-based practice, data-driven strategies to reduce recidivism. Additionally, we have a website that provides a one-stop interactive resource for current user-friendly information on reentry. We also deliver training and technical assistance, as many of you know, as your technical assistant provider. We provide individualized and strategic guidance to recipients of Second Chance Act funding in order to maximize the efforts to help individuals returning from incarceration to succeed in their community. We also promote what works in reentry. In partnership with the Urban Institute, the NRRC has developed the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse. Online resource is important research on a wide variety of important interventions. The NRRC's online library contains more than 1,000 publications and other materials to help the field identify proven and promising practices in reentry. Also, the National Reentry Resource Center facilitates peer networks and information exchange. The NRRC runs monthly webinars and webcasts on key reentry topics and convenes national trainings, events to facilitate peer-to-peer networking, which a lot of you have been doing this week. The NRRC distributes a monthly electronic newsletter of news, research, and reentry, funding opportunities, and trainings in the field. As I mentioned earlier, you can sign up for the newsletter in the back hallway at our resource table. We also provide information to returning individuals and families. The NRRC maintains online state and local reentry databases to help individuals returning home after incarceration and their families to identify service providers in their communities. If you'd like more information, please, again, see our staff in the back. So this morning it is my great pleasure for me to introduce a panel of formerly incarcerated individuals who will be sharing their powerful stories with you this morning. I would like to welcome up David Diamora, National Division Director at the Justice Center, who will be moderating the panel. David, please take the stage.
Good morning again, last day. Welcome back. We appreciate very much that you are here. Please make sure that you stay after this panel. We're going to be going directly from this plenary to another one, and I have some important announcements regarding the rest of the day that will be happening after this panel. So please do make certain that you stay. We will actually have the break after the second plenary. So we have spent the week talking about evidence-based practices. We have spent the week talking about science. We have spent the week talking about how we need to have systems change and how we need to figure out the appropriate programs for individuals and the appropriate responses for individuals rather than simply fit individuals into what we happen to have at the moment. We've talked about the challenges. We've talked about the difficulties. We've talked about the logistics. It's time to have the folks talk. It's time to have the people who indeed are impacted by all of these things tell you a little bit about some of their stories. One of the things that we're very proud of is that as we have done these conferences over the years, we have, on the last day typically, sort of to send folks home with the right thinking, if you will, we have had folks who've been formerly incarcerated come and speak and tell their stories. We are fortunate and frankly honored this morning to be able to have some members of a group called the Phoenix Foundation here to speak with us this morning. We have with us today 4 individuals who were formerly incarcerated. We also have Vivian Blackford, who is the head of the co-chair of the Connecticut Sentencing Commission, who will speak a little bit at the end. And Dr. Beth Skinner will respond at some different times during the panel discussion. Dr. Skinner, prior to joining the Justice Center, spent 20 years working in probation and parole, supervising probationers and parolees, supervising agents. She has been on the front lines of this work for a long time and has a very clear understanding of the importance of how it is that we interact with the folks that we are responsible for supervising and that we are responsible for helping to survive and to make it in the world once they return from prison. So I'd like to introduce to you this morning our 4 panelists, and I'm going to go from right to left in terms of the introduction, starting with Audrey Schroeder. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Next to her is Kumar Viswanathan. Good morning, Kumar. And sitting next to her is Cynthia Cloney. Good morning, Cynthia. And at my near left here is Kennard Ray. Good morning, Kennard. And the way that we have this structured is that each individual will spend some time chatting, talking with you, and then depending on timing, Dr. Skinner may add a couple of comments at the end of those different talks, and then we'll go to the next individual. I will be sitting down here and will simply monitor in terms of time and making sure that everybody gets a chance to have some time talking. And then depending on what we have left at the end, we may have some questions and answers, but frankly, what is most important at this point is for folks to be able to hear the stories and to understand what it is that these folks' lives have been like and what they have done. And by the way, when I talk about what they have done, we have folks on the panel who have been back in the community for 4 months. We have folks who have been back in the community for 4 years, and we have folks who have been back in the community for 10 years. So they have done a lot of work since their return to the community. And so we will begin now this morning with Audrey Schroeder. Audrey?
Good morning. I'm hoping this thing works. Okay. Well, I'm going to start in the beginning where my journey started. Let me see. I was married for 21 years. I have 3 beautiful children. I was a PTO mom. I got involved with my children, the football, the softball, all that stuff. A little bit more? Okay, thank you. And then along in the process, I ended up getting divorced after being married for 21 years. And then I decided, well, let's have some fun. So I started drinking. And my drinking took off within 10 months. And in the process of me drinking, I ended up getting behind the wheel one night. And I ended up taking the life of an innocent man by drinking and driving. So in the process of going to prison, and I would have never thought in a million years I'd end up incarcerated. It's like, this is unbelievable. So this is where my journey starts, why I was incarcerated. I ended up with 8 years, and I did 7 of the 8 while I was in there. And in the process of me doing my 7 years, I decided, well, let me change who I am. I don't want to be the same person I went in. I want to be somebody different when I get out. So I got involved in a lot of the programs and a lot of things that are available while I was in prison. I became a hospice volunteer. I did facilitated alternative to violence while I was in there. I got involved in a lot of spiritual groups, which that helped me a lot because I had a lot of healing to do from the inside out, which I didn't know I had a lot of issues going on inside me, which I didn't know at the time when I was incarcerated, so that helped me out a lot too. So along with the journey is, what I had struggles with is because of my crime, which was violent, I ended up spending 3 years on the maximum side, which it doesn't have a lot of programs that I would have liked to have done on the maximum side, so I had to wait until I got to the minimum side, which was 3 years, and then I did 4 years on the minimum side because they go by your, it's a level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was a level 4 for 4 years, which is right below somebody who's on death row, and I'm like, this is insane. I want to do some work. I want to work on stuff. But eventually I got to the east side, and I spent some time over there, and that's where I did the Marilyn Baker program, which is a substance abuse program. I spent 18 months in there, which helped me out a lot. I learned about my alcoholism and stuff. And then I did the Chrysalis program, which is a spiritual-based program. I was in there for 18 months too. And then I wanted to get the CPC, which is a work program, because I wanted to work off grounds. I wanted to be a trustee. So I had to wait to become a level 2 to get to the CPC, which was my last year in there. And then I ended up leaving grounds, and I helped build homes for the Habitat for Humanity, which was very rewarding. But it's all a process that I had to go through just to get where I wanted to get. But in the long run, I mean, I've changed. I love who I am today, even though I went through the whole process of being in prison. It wasn't a great place to be, but things happened in my life where I guess I had to be there at that time. I always feel my higher power has a thing for me: be still, you know, just focus on yourself. So maybe that's part of my journey that I had to go through. So with me being incarcerated and then me being released from prison, because I still had a year left on my sentence, I paroled to my sister's house, which I have a great support system. My family, my children, my sister, my brothers, everybody supported me through this journey that I was on. So when I spent time with my sister trying to find a job, when they look at your charges, because I was charged with manslaughter, it's like nobody would hire me, not even Dunkin' Donuts. So I broke down one day crying to my sister, and she goes, you know what, something better is gonna come along, and something did. I mean, before I went into prison, I operated heavy equipment. I was a front-end loader operator. I do that again, which is incredible. This job, this company, is, there's 60 divisions across the U.S., and they hire ex-felons, and they hired me. I've been in there a little over 3 years now, and it's just amazing. I love my job, and I love the people I work with, because it's a very family-oriented company. They really believe in people coming together, and it's very unity. So I ended up getting that job. It took me 7 months pounding the pavement. I didn't give up. Every day I got up, and I mean, I did everything I had to do, and then I got involved with the reentry group in Middletown, Connecticut, where I'm from. It's the Easter Seals base program. I got involved in them. They helped me along in my journey, learning how to do interviewing again and learning how to act when I go to my interview, budget money, how to take care of situations, because I didn't know any of that. My ex-husband took care of all that. So I didn't know any of that when I got out of prison either. So they helped me along. And to this day, I go back there periodically for graduations, and I tell the ones that are coming out, there's hope. Things do happen if you do the right thing. And I really believe that. So I'm doing that. I got a job, and then after a year after I left my sister's, I live on my own. I have my car. I got my license back. Everything is just amazing. I got involved with the CCJR, which is the Connecticut Coalition of Justice Reform. We're trying to change maybe a little bit, baby steps, being involved in certain organizations, and then the Phoenix Association. My life is very fulfilled right now, which I'm loving it, because these are things I would have never thought I was capable of doing before I went to prison. So, I mean, it's part of my journey that I'm learning. And the new thing is, I just found out I'm getting ready to buy my own home. Who would have thought? I mean, it's incredible. Life is just amazing. So things can happen, but it's part of the process and part of people helping me to get where I am today. And I mean, I had a lot of help along the way, a lot of organizations and a lot of things to help me get where I am today. And I mean, I'm very thankful and very happy, and I'm just loving life. Life is just amazing. And I thank everybody for listening to me. I'm the one that's been out almost 4 years now, and I did 7 years that I was in, so. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Audrey. Beth, did you have any? Sure. Did you have any comments?
I just got to figure out how to turn. Oh, it is on. Okay, great. Thank you. Audrey, thank you for sharing your story. Quick question for you. In terms of your path, from the institution into reentry, you mentioned a few challenges, one being, getting a job. What were some other challenges that you faced, reentering back into the community, and also, what do you think were the major pivotal parts that really kept you going or kept you from, engaging back in, drinking and past behaviors?
I don't really like to talk about this, but I have a tattoo I designed for me on my leg. In the gentleman's life that I took, he was a fireman. I have a fireman's helmet on the bottom of my foot. That's what keeps me from not drinking. Because he's the one that makes me continue on in life and to give back, pay it forward, and keep going on my journey and keep doing the positive aspects of my life. And that's what keeps me focused. Is that, plus, I mean, I know where it's going to end up if I start, the consequences. I didn't think about that before, but the consequences of where I am and where I can end up. It's either going to be death or institutions. And neither one I don't want, because I'm not going to be there for my children, my family. So this is what keeps me stable. Plus, I do AA meetings twice a week. I have a sponsor. My life is, I'm doing the right things that have to be done in my life. You need a sponsor. You need to go to your AA meetings, which I do twice a week, but that's what keeps me. And the other struggle I had is trying to find a place to live. They do background checks. I couldn't live in a nice apartment complex. I have to live in, where I am right now, which is, it's nice, but it's a private home. I can't go to one of these luxury apartments or whatever because they do background checks, which I tried, and they're like, we're sorry. We don't want an ex-felon living next to us. So that's the struggle.
So I just want to ask you quickly, the secret's out. Vivian just told me that you help ex-offenders find employment. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yes, I do, actually. I got 5 people, jobs where I am, and I'm hopefully going to be getting someone else a job there pretty soon, hopefully. I figure I pay it forward. If you go to work on time, be there every day, keep doing what you got to do, the job's there. And there's 5 people that work there where I am who still continue working there, and they're doing really well. Huh?
Tell them what you mean.
Tell them what? Oh, and I earn $80,000 a year.
You've now made half the audience jealous.
I was going to say, David, I need a raise.
We will now move on to, and thank you very much, Audrey. We will now move on to Kumar Viswanathan, and he will share some of his story with you. Kumar?
Good morning. It's a big room and a lot of people. Thank you. Thank you, David and Leah. This has been an amazing conference for me, so I'm thrilled to be here, Council of State Governments. They told me to tell you a little about myself and a little bit about my story. I'm sorry, I can't hear. Okay.
There you go. You got it.
They asked me to speak about myself and my story, and I asked them how long I had, and they told me 10 minutes, and I laughed. I can't even get through my arrest part of the story in 10 minutes. But I'll see what I can do, and you'll forgive me if I skim over very, very quickly, but it's a matter of time and constraint. So, when I committed my crime, I was very young. You know that if you see my mugshot, because I had hair. I was 20 years old, and through circumstances regarding fear for myself and my family, and being young, awful decision-making, fear just coursing through me, I took a man's life in what I thought was a necessary act. It's difficult
to ask you to speak just a little bit more.
I'm sorry, even more. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's
right.
It's very difficult to talk about and think about, and it's something I live with for the rest of my life. I was 20, 21. I'm about to be 45 now, and it's been a long, perilous journey to sit here in front of you. And I was ignorant, and when I went to prison, I didn't know anything. And the journey of our lives, we grow, we change, we learn. It's funny, I didn't know a whole lot about Audrey, except over the last couple of days. I've never been married. I don't have children. There's so many things we don't have in common, yet we were in completely different prisons and We both did Alternatives to Violence, which changed the course of my life, and we both did hospice work, which also changed the course of my life. If you want to know the measure and value of life, you know, spend some time with those who are passing away, who are dying. It'll make you thrilled about every day. A woman I did not know who's in this room stopped me this morning, and she said to me, I've watched you dance, sing, smile, and laugh your way through this conference for the last 2.5 days. I don't know who she's talking about. And I am thrilled to be here. I came out of curiosity and the invitation to speak my mind, and a little bit of wariness. When you spend so much time in the system, it's difficult to believe that people are trying to help you get out. And the message I will deliver to those who are still there is, you know, diametrically opposed to what it is a part of my heart believed. I have listened to so many of you speak about what it is you're doing and how you're engaged in this, what I consider to be a fight. You know, I was talking to Jessica Bresford. Hi, Jessica, from Father Matters in Arizona, and a gentleman from Syracuse, Adam, who's working with mentorship. And it's thrilling to hear the fact that I'm so joyous and I'm able to enjoy every little moment that I can is in great part because of the support network I have. I've only been out 4 months, so I did about 24 years on the inside, and you know, until recently I'd never used a cell phone, and I don't know if any of you heard about the internet thing, but it's pretty cool. And so, but the only way that I'm able to negotiate my life, you know, is because I have an enormous support network of friends and family, and you know, many prisoners who re-enter society simply don't have it, you know, especially those who serve long sentences, and it is critical, instrumental, that they have some kind of support network. And I was listening to the concept of holistic approaches, which I'm a little familiar with, but the idea that, you know, if you can address any number of, I think David called it criminogenic needs, you know, it makes a difference. I've sat with all these guys, and we talked about the things we will face. And now that I'm out here, I seek out ex-offenders who are where I want to be and doing what I want to do. And when you spend enough time in the darkness, you understand the value of spreading the light, right? Because what else are you going to do other than try to help somebody else who's behind you and going through the same things? So I'm thrilled to be here, and you know, as I've gone through this past week, I found that I have a whole lot more in common with many people here than I thought I might, and it's really proved to be great. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the knowledge and commitment that I've heard from you guys. The brothers in Philadelphia, right? I have listened to them for 3 days, and I'm so excited. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of making a difference in this world. And the arc of my life and the story of my life began in a beautiful place in Middletown, Connecticut, and Wesleyan University, and went to some dark places. And I've reemerged into the light, and people ask me all the time what it feels like to be free after so much time. The answer is it you know, feels like to let you into heaven, you know, and every day is a blessing, every day is a joy. Anytime you meet somebody and can affect them, pay it forward, right? What an amazing story Audrey has there. By the way, the fireman's helmet is not on the bottom of her foot, it's at the bottom of her ankle. And it's beautiful, and the concept of paying it forward and doing what we can in this life to help others is what it's all about.
Thank you very much. Beth, did you have a question?
Yes. Actually, I have 2 questions. The first question is, being inside for, you said 24 years approximately, what worked for you, what didn't work for you in terms of the stuff that you were involved in. And I just wanted you to talk briefly, since you were in an institution for so long, what were your biggest challenges coming out, and how did you manage those?
Sure.
Too many questions, sorry.
You know, for me, because I went in so young, you know, there's a learning curve. There's just an arc of stupidity that's involved, and when you do that kind of time, you don't even think you're ever going to be free or make it out. So the first few years were a little bit different, just trying to learn how to survive. And then you want to learn more. People take you under their wings, prisoners, counselors speak to you, correctional staff sometimes. The Alternatives to Violence program, in which we attempt to teach other prisoners or share with other prisoners skill sets in how to conflict resolution skills, right? Being a part of that for 10 years allows me to think in a different way, and that has made a tremendous difference to me. You know, I took, like Audrey, I took as many programs and I had to fight to get into them sometimes. You know, a parenthood class, they told me you don't have children. And I told them I want the parenting class before I have children. You know, you learn everything you can possibly learn in the hopes that somewhere down the road, that's a holistic approach too. So creative writing, the hospice, the book club, literacy volunteers, the list goes on. And what you find is that there's a small core group of men, and I'm sure women in the women's prison, who kind of do the same things, because you're headed in the same direction, so you see their faces in different, you know, programs. And what made the difference is wanting to affect change on a personal level and in your community. The thing that one of the linchpins of my life's operating philosophy now is service to community. Once I did hospice, I decided that I'm the happiest when I can help others, and when I'm not helping others, it doesn't feel as good. You know, the great news is people think it's a good thing to do. It's really a little bit on the selfish side. Mm-hmm. As far as being out here in the transition, there's so many difficulties, and I have a lot of help. You know, getting a job is enormously difficult. You know, I have a murder charge, and they see the charge, they don't know who you are, and so that makes it tremendously difficult. Little things, getting an identification, transportation to and from places where you need to go, the DMV, this, that, the other thing. It's been very difficult in those ways, but I really try not to complain. I had a strawberry daiquiri the other night. It's not a beach yet, but I've been waiting a long time for that daiquiri. You know, so the transitions, they're individualized. Everyone has different, you know, some of them are housing, some of them are mental health issues, and while you can take that holistic approach, it has to be case by case, and I've been okay. I'm sorry, this mic is killing me.
Just one more quick question. Tell me what didn't work for you.
They make it very difficult to navigate the system. In other words, it's a linear approach as far as they're concerned, but sometimes you need things to come before other ones. You know, it's hard to get an ID sometimes if you don't get it while you're still in the prison. You know, without it, you can't open a bank account, you can't fly, you can't get on the Amtrak. There's a million things you just can't do, and so identification is critical, especially for those who have been locked up a long time and don't have it anymore. Those who never drove, so there's no driver's license on file, those kinds of things. So really it's just been a bunch of little things, but we're making progress. I love my sister, by the way. Thank you for everything. Yeah.
Kumar, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And we are now going to move to Cynthia Cloney. Cynthia, good morning.
Good morning. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you to David, Leah, Vivian, and all my other panel fellows up here. It's been a long, strange journey, but anyway, I had to make notes because I could ramble on, and I was told I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to give you the condensed version of how I got to York Correctional Institution for Women in Connecticut. I came from your normal dysfunctional family, you know, divorce, broken home, you know, the usual. I I got involved in an abusive/controlling relationship at a young age, and I started using drugs and alcohol to cope. You know, I had no good coping skills because I was never taught them as a young person. We have alcoholism/drug addiction in our family, and I believe that, you know, in some ways it is hereditary. But so I ended up having a surgery, got addicted to the prescription drugs, took them for as long as I could get them, and then ended up moving on to heroin because of the unavailability of the prescription pills, the cost of them. It's not a new problem. This is going back to the 1990s. So I took them after the surgery because they made me feel good, not physically, but emotionally and psychologically while I was dealing with this, you know, bad relationship that I had been in. It dulled all that pain. So, of course, you know, as it was dulling the pain, it was also creating a monster for me to deal with on a daily basis. I battled that for about 6 years until August of 2007 when, after I had become homeless, lost everything near and dear to me, including all my family who couldn't tolerate who I had become. You know, I had that drug-seeking behavior, and nobody could trust me, of course. And so I was staying behind the padlocked doors of my foreclosed home, and had a brainstorm. The next day, woke up and robbed a bank. I needed money. I didn't know what else to do. And at that point, I didn't care. You know, if I lived or died, it didn't matter at that point, because when you have nothing left, you have nothing left to lose, and that's where I was in life. Now, prior to that, I had a semi-normal life. I had a nursing license. I had a job. You know, I had friends, possessions, whatever. But the drugs and the lifestyle systematically took it from me one by one, and I was left with basically the clothes on my back. So anyway, I had tried rehab a couple times. I tried to get into rehab a couple times, which is very difficult. I don't know if you folks know the system. I'm sure you do. It's not easy to get into rehab. A lot of people fall through the cracks. You have too much, you don't have enough. You have insurance, you don't have insurance. There's a 2-month waiting list for a methadone clinic. So, you know, that was what I was dealing with. But when I was 37 when I went to jail. I'd never been arrested before in my life, no prior, maybe a speeding ticket or two. So when I got incarcerated, I had already kind of was praying that I could change. I knew my life was, you know, I had overdosed 3 times, came back, but by the grace of God, and I knew that if I didn't change something, you know, I wasn't going to live to see my 40th birthday, you know, which subsequently I spent in jail, but it was okay. Somebody made me a cake. It was actually kind of nice. So when I got into York, I spent, like Audrey said, York is divided into 2 sides, the maximum security side and the minimum security side. Anybody that comes in and has a lengthy sentence will spend time in the maximum side. Well, I came in unsentenced. I spent time on the maximum side because for 21 months, my case was going back and forth to court, back and forth to court. So it was very difficult to get into the programs. But I was relentless. I pursued. I wrote 15 requests a day if I had to, and I finally got into an AA meeting, which started the process. I got into the relapse prevention program, which is what I needed, you know, to deal with my whole addiction, obviously. And what I must say about the whole thing with the programs in prison is they're necessary. And in our state, I don't know about other states, they're staffed mostly by volunteers. And without those volunteers, we wouldn't have the programs we have. You know, I mean, for staff issues, whatever the case may be, you know, we had people come in from the outside that, you know, if they were like angels. They facilitated these programs that we were able to do that necessary work to go deep down and fix what was broken. You know, I took, like I said, I wrote requests for everything. Some of the programs the waiting list was longer than my entire sentence, so I didn't get into them, obviously, but there was one program in particular called Voices, and it's a victims impact program, and, you know, I was on the road to change, but that really kind of pushed me over the edge to where I needed to be, to really look in the face of what I had done and, to make amends and be ready to, to own up to it and take that accountability for what I did and for my own responsibility of my addiction. And it changed my life, gratefully. So since I've been home, I got home 4 years ago myself. It'll be 4 years this September. I got a job. I worked in the restaurant business for years along with my nursing career, and so I was able to procure a restaurant job. They're not so big on the background check, so I told my boss, I was honest with them, but they hired me nonetheless. I stayed at my first job for 3 years. I moved on to a different job, a different restaurant, great place. I finished school. I became a certified addictions counselor, which I will be taking the exam this coming, I think I'm going to take it in June, I'm pretty sure, but I work at a substance abuse treatment facility as well with women just like myself, men as well, who are going through the same battle that I went through, and I'm hoping that we don't do a lot of disclosure of ourselves, obviously, but I know where they're coming from, and I just hope that I could help them in some ways. I belong to a couple groups, like Audrey. I belong to the Phoenix Association, which stemmed from the CCJR. I work with Faith Behind Bars, which is a prison ministry group, the Malta Criminal Justice Initiative, and basically, I just want to give back, for all that I've been given. I've been given so much in life, and I'm so grateful. And thanks to this man over here, he reminds me of the gratitude that we need to have on a daily basis. He's the happiest man in the world. So basically, that's it. I just believe that, we have to keep the programs going. What I noticed about this conference, which I think is great, is the whole mentoring aspect, because I do believe that one-to-one relationship that you forge with a person coming out of incarceration, it's a scary world. I had family, I had support, so, I was lucky as far as that goes. But I know so many people that didn't, and as I heard through the grapevine that as soon as, didn't take them long to either violate the conditions of their supervision or end up getting another charge. And, I just feel that, we could help, especially being ex-offenders. I think that, we have I guess it is a unique situation. And I think that we, maybe we could be a source of, hope, inspiration. This is what we did, this is what worked, this didn't work, whatever. So that's what we're trying to get started up in old New England up there. So hopefully we'll be at this conference and we'll have our own little booth somewhere. But thank you folks very much, appreciate it.
And thank you very much. We appreciate it. We are now going to move on to Kennard Ray, who is going to share with us his story. And after that, we will have a few questions, and then Vivian Blackford will speak briefly as well from the Connecticut Sentencing Commission. So, Kennard.
Thank you, David. So I'm the one that's been home the longest, the 10-year guy. For that range that David gave you a little earlier. And my journey has been pretty typical, at least to the population that you serve. In general, most of the folks here serve a population that's largely poor, largely have entered prison at a young age, and largely have very few supports when they re-enter. And I became an accidental, well, let me just back up with that piece. Also was a teenage drug dealer. That's what got me into prison. And with selling drugs as a teenager, the gun comes with it, the invisible gun, but I actually had it. So it wasn't invisible that time. And from that space, from coming from that place, knowing that you may not have supports, you may not have resources, you may look at life a little different as we see recidivism is the key metric that folks here are working to reduce. And changing the outlook of someone, like anyone on this panel, but especially someone like me, that comes from a place where you have very little resources and you're coming back into a community with even less. That's key. That's key to changing the way that we operate and changing the way that your jobs, our jobs, are worked. So I became, the folks all up here are advocates to the core. I became an accidental advocate. I had been working for a few years in politics, progressive politics, you know, doing what I could to, up in Connecticut, to raise minimum wage and stuff like that. And I got tapped for a job in the mayor's office in Hartford. With that, because it was an appointment and there was no background check, you know, I was selected from my merit and from my work. Someone eventually looked, the media did, and you know, it became kind of a media firestorm. People wanted to look more into me and more into what I had done in the past, and you know, it definitely stopped the job, but it started my advocacy, and it's pretty recent, this past November. It started my advocacy for folks just like me, and knowing that we have to become partners with the grantees, the justice systems, the institutions that already exist to do, just as Cynthia said, to provide that unique experience, that expertise from being on the other side, from coming back into the real world and having to face new challenges. And you know, Kumar just telling us about that internet thing, that's pretty profound. That's pretty profound, because this is something that he's only heard about until recently, and we have to know that it can't just be one bucket. Just as David has said throughout the conference, we have to work to address individuals by individuals, because if I've never used the internet and only heard of it, I'm running into a world of problems, a world of trouble. All the rest of us have had the internet in our pocket for the last 10 years. He's just been seeing it on TV. And it may not seem like that big of a deal, but this is how we operate. This is how business gets done. It's not just fast food and fries anymore, or being able to send snail mail to someone. You got to be Johnny on the spot. And these are the skills, as far as programming goes, that folks need to know as they re-enter. The thing that I really want to put out there is, if we really, as a group, the hundreds of folks here that do this work either by vocation or by personal interest, if we, the advocates, truly want to get to a place where we're achieving evidence-based results, as we've heard throughout the conference, then we have to make sure we're creating reality-based standards. So, you know, if I'm returning to a community where we know there's no jobs, right? Don't violate my probation or parole because I couldn't get a job, you know, in a 90-day span, when my brothers, my sisters, the folks who don't have a record yet, haven't been able to find one. Know that we have to work together to change systems. It doesn't work. And David, again, you had a quote in one of your first slides. The systems are built to work. You might want to finish this for me, because
Every system is designed to get the exact results that it
You say it.
Every system is designed to get the exact results that it gets.
Exactly. How powerful is that? How big of a reminder is that? How I hope that sticks with you as you go back into your work, because it will stick with us. We know that we're working in broken systems, and we know these systems need change. And this group here, as groups before, that have come before you in the past, want to work as partners to change those systems. Just really quick on my story, Vivian and I were talking on the way down here, on the train down from Connecticut, and she said, were you ever on parole or whatever? And I said, yeah, actually, I did a few years on parole. She said, how'd you get through that? That's usually kind of rough for folks, right? I said, yeah, but, you know, it was this one thing that I did. Every time I went to parole, I dressed like I was going to an interview or to a job. I made sure I had a collar on, right? And if your perception can change about me just in the way that I present myself, I become one less problem for you, one less headache on a heavy caseload. And I pass that word on to other ex-offenders. So there's things that we've heard all throughout the conference about ex-offenders being able to work with ex-offenders because they're returning to populations or places that are filled with ex-offenders. And it's sometimes just those small things, being able to tell a friend, put on a collared shirt, buy a pair of slacks if you can. Those small things from the experience that gets us closer to changing the systems for which we work in. Thank you.
That reminds me, the other day when we were talking, and Audrey, I think that it was you, no, I'm sorry, it was Cynthia, it was you. We were talking about how over time you've had 2 or 3 different supervising officers, and that, 5 at this point. But what you were talking about was both the difficulty of having multiple officers over time, but also the fact that so many of those officers were very supportive and really pushed you in a good way along the way. And I wondered if you could just share a little bit about how some of those officers were indeed supportive and positive, and how you know, what that meant for you in terms of being able to move forward.
Okay, sure. Yes, I had a total of 5 parole officers in 3 years. Actually, as we speak, I am still on parole. So, I mean, I have special conditions in Connecticut. We have special parole. I don't know if that's a nationwide thing, but I'm almost done, thank God. But yes, I had my first 4 parole officers were, they're wonderful. You know, when I went to I reported like Kennard said. I didn't show up. I showed up dressed, you know, professionally, neatly. You know, my presentation. You know, I brought them what they wanted. Did whatever the conditions of my parole. I followed them to a T, and they were very, you know, they were encouraging. I actually developed quite a rapport with a couple of them. You know, a couple of them were in and out of my life so quickly I didn't even get a chance to really, you know their name too well. But there was a couple that were wonderful, and they supported me, and they were almost like cheerleaders for me. You know, because maybe because of their caseload, they see more of, you know, violations as opposed to people that are actually making it on the outside. So yeah, it's important. You know, it's important to have a good relationship with your supervising officer. You know, because it's good for us. I guess it's good for them. You know, it's rather than having somebody that's on your case all the time, and then you start wondering, you know, well, am I doing something wrong, or, you know, maybe I haven't changed. You know, whatever, that could also be a problem as well.
As I recall, you have an excellent relationship with your current probation officer.
Yes, I do, and actually I wanted to speak something about that. I'm on probation, so for me to come here this 4 days, I had to get a traveling pass from my probation officer, which she is absolutely amazing. She had recommended me to go for a modification on my probation, and I'm like, they're not going to give me a modification. She goes, just try it, do it. And I did it. I went April 5th of last year. They took 2 years off my probation. And the victim's family was there, and they forgave me. That's the most amazing gift that I could receive in life. So there was a purpose of me going for the modification so the victim's family could be there. But my probation officer is absolutely amazing, and what stinks, in my opinion, is when I'm off probation, I can't have no contact with her at all. I would like her to see how my journey is continuing in life, because she helped me along the way. So I really can't have any contact with her because she's part of the the justice system and everything, and of course I'm an ex-felon, so I can't have that association with her, which I think is very sad, because I would love to let her know how my journey is continuing. And that's just like staff at York. I met amazing staff that encouraged me, kind words. I mean, it wasn't all that bad, but it's like you can't have contact with them, even if you're successful out here. I mean, I would like to tell them, hey, your kind word encouraged me to do the right thing. But we can't have any contact with any of the staff or anybody that has to do with the justice system. But thank you.
Thank you. And Vivian, if you would be so kind as to tell us a little bit about your work, and both your work during the day, if you will, and your work in the evening and other weekends.
I'm a retired person and a volunteer with the privilege to do some work in this criminal justice reform field. I am a member of the Connecticut Sentencing Commission. I'm actually not co-chair of it, but co-chair of the Recidivism Reduction Committee of the Connecticut Sentencing Commission, and I think we're doing some very good work there. It's a sentencing commission with a very powerful statute and mandate and exciting things going on, but I don't want to talk about that right now because the Phoenix Association, which you've heard something about already, is a very exciting thing that I think might interest you. Coming off of Audrey's remarks about how sad it is that she feels that she can't go talk to the people at the facility where she was who were helpful to her, who said a kind word at the right time that made a big difference. We have formed an association that can do that. These are members of the Phoenix Association. The Phoenix Association is a group of ex-offenders. I'm the only member who is not an ex-offender. And we were invited by the Connecticut Department of Corrections to help with culture change there. Very bold move on the part of the Department of Corrections. I should say, I think when we started this conference, I think David talked about and others talked about how we are working on workarounds to make the system better. We're also hoping for culture change. Culture change is hard to get. You get it a little bit through some workarounds, but going right after it, that's tough. We don't know how to do it very well. It's the goal of the Phoenix Association to go for culture change in the criminal justice system directly. And so what we have done with all of the wardens and all of the deputy wardens in the Department of Corrections in Connecticut is meet for 3-hour sessions that are of small groups. I have wardens, 6 wardens, 6 successful, thoughtful ex-offenders. I should say those ex-offenders, most of them from the inner city, most of them long bids, most of them minority, but doing well on the outside. We have in these intense 3-hour meetings that have some one-on-one encounters, some group conversation. the wardens and the deputy wardens have been sent to these meetings without much explanation. They come in a little sulky. They're told they're going to sit with ex-offenders for 3 hours. And every single one of them, all 50 of them, have left with exclamations about how important these meetings are to them and how it has changed their attitudes. The Connecticut DOC has now taken the further bold step of asking us to do this work with all 500 of their people on supervisory levels. So they're interested in going all the way. So that's the Phoenix Association. We're a small group. We're 12 to 15 people. We haven't quite figured out how we're gonna do 500 supervisors. Our next step is to institutionalize ourselves, look for some money, and think about, since we're learning how to do this in the Department of Corrections, we're getting kind of good at it, at least the people in the Connecticut DOC think so. Where else can we do the same work? Can we work with judges? Can we work with prosecutors? Can we work with others where culture change might help?
Thank you so much. And so, of course, now I want to take some of the information from these brave stories and I want to put it into some of the language that we've talked about, because what you heard this morning in very human terms were issues that have to do with impulsivity when people are young, with criminal thinking, with seeing violence or theft as a solution to a problem, with the danger of addiction and how addiction and other drug abuse difficulties can fuel criminal behavior. What you heard were a variety that folks talked about, that they had a variety of cognitive distortions. What you heard was that while they may have decided to do a behavior in a particular day, that behavior developed over a long period of time, didn't just happen, and it wasn't that they had all the things that everybody needed to be doing well, but that some things didn't exist, and they needed that help and that support to move forward. And what you heard in terms of that help and support included things like family and friends in terms of supports. You heard about support networks and mentoring. You heard about the simple issue of maturation and growing up. You heard about taking advantage of programs, not all of them equally powerful or helpful. You heard about the importance of people and the importance of people caring and supporting, and while still, needless to say, having a role around accountability, you heard about people whose goal was that folks would do well and would survive and would in fact prosper, rather than when will they do the wrong thing. And you heard about how they needed to change their thinking. You heard about why cognitive behavioral interventions are so important. And you heard about, interestingly enough, that even while in facilities that arguably there's a lot of antisocial behavior and thinking going on, given who may be in those facilities when you group large numbers of people together, what you heard from several of these individuals was how they went after activities that weren't necessarily programs, but were things that allowed them to behave, to act, to think in a pro-social manner, to give back, as they put it. You heard about the hospice work, you heard about the education work, you heard about the advocacy work. What you heard this morning in very real words and in very real terms, and without all of the lingo, if you will, that we use, is some piece, some small part of what it's like for individuals to navigate our system and to, if you will, come out at the other end in a way that is successful for them. And that work doesn't stop, that even 10 years later there are issues, there are challenges to surmount, there are folks who may believe that because of something that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, that there is still there are still opportunities that should be denied to an individual. But you've also heard some very cool stories about folks who have said, no, we need to provide opportunities to individuals, and we're going to do so through employment, through adequate and appropriate pay, and through the kind of pay that allows you to buy your own home even as time goes by. From my perspective, it is one of the best ways to really think about the wrap-up of all of the science we've talked about, to think about all of the particular techniques that we've talked about, to think about the issue of systems change, because at the end of the day, there are two things that we are responsible to do. At the end of the day, we are responsible to assure that the community is safer, and at the end of the day, we are responsible to assure that those individuals who go through the criminal justice system become successful and give back to the community over time. So please join me once again in thanking these folks for sharing their stories with us.